Donald Trump has only been in office for close to 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, he's not only managed to threaten NATO allies with military force and tariffs, which quite clearly didn't work last time around, he's jeopardized America's relationship with its biggest export markets and the friends that came to America's aid when it was attacked on September 11, 2001. Aides on both sides of the Atlantic say that he acted in a very aggressive manner towards Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen when they spoke on the phone concerning Greenland. And while Trump is used to thinking that a woman saying no to him means yes, this clearly isn't the case with Denmark and their European allies. But all is not lost. Denmark has a big fat trump card up its sleeve. It is related to one of the largest public health issues in the US, and in this regard, Denmark holds all the power, namely the average waist size in the very large US population. I'm Tuomas, a former officer in the Finnish Defense Forces, and today we'll look at how an American trade war with Denmark and the EU would hurt American consumers to the point of causing damage to their already on average very frail health. You see, Denmark's largest company is also the company in Europe with the highest registered value. It is called Novo Nordisk, and it specializes in semaglutide drugs. Now, you may wonder what a semaglutide drug is, but to you and me that is Ozempic, Wegovy, and so-called diet and diabetes medication. Novo, as people like to call it, sold these drugs for staggering values in the years since they invented and patented them. And in 2023, Novo's stock value was higher than Denmark's GDP in total. What made them so profitable, you may ask? The answer lies in the US and their broken food and health system. 72% of their revenue came from sales in the US, and as an American you may think that this is a good thing, as Trump can tariff these items. But it really isn't. Novo's drugs are so popular in the US because the US, on average, is one of the most obese populations on the planet, mainly caused by extremely lax food regulation and a rate of consuming processed food that is off the charts compared to most other countries. Wegovy and Ozempic used to be drugs that were given to diabetes sufferers to control insulin receptors, but in the last 5 or so years, they've become diet medication. The issue with putting a tariff on them would be that its users would have to fork up even more for an expensive drug, which in many cases keep people from becoming morbidly obese and being an overall loss for the American economy. The issue for Donald Trump is that at least 1 in 8 Americans have used Novo's weight loss drugs in 2024 alone. The cost for both Ozempic and Wegovy are around $1,000 a month in the US. Would the American population be okay with him increasing the costs of one of the most common drugs in the US by 20 to 25% because he has imperial ambitions in Greenland? Maybe. Funnily enough, the parts of the US population who are most likely to use these drugs are adults aged 50 to 64. Guess who this age bracket in large parts voted for? You guessed it, Donald Trump. Now, you may think that Americans can go elsewhere for their diet drugs, but the reality is that Novo owns the patent for Ozempic, Wegovy, and a wide range of the diet pills now being consumed at fantastical rates in the US. It's Denmark's ultimate soft power card, and it'll hit the one country on earth who needs these drugs the most. You see, it isn't just obesity in itself which is an issue in the US. It is also the prevalence of diabetes type 2, often linked to the high consumption of sugar and calories, mixed with little to no exercise. A staggering 10% of the US population has type 2 diabetes, and the prevalence is higher the further Midwest and South you go in the US. Now, these sufferers don't need to take Ozempic or Wegovy, but they definitely need insulin. Guess who makes the most insulin worldwide? You guessed it, Novo Nordisk. Novo makes roughly 50% of the world's insulin, meaning that if Donald Trump tariffs Denmark, the 2 other large producers of insulin will just follow the price increases to the benefit of their bottom line. Polls recently also suggest that on average, American voters for both parties are generally very negative towards Donald Trump's threats against allies. In Greenland, even less people want to be part of the US empire, with only 6% of Greenland's population being positive towards this move, maybe on account of how the US treats its native population and the fact that many Greenlanders are native Inuit people. Furthermore, many Europeans now consider the US a bigger threat than North Korea. And the ramification of these silly outbursts by Donald Trump is likely not doing America's standing in the world any favors. Denmark, as noted earlier in this video, suffered a much higher casualty rate per capita than the US in the American-led war in Afghanistan. The US as a whole is looking like an ally which can no longer be trusted. In our previous videos we discussed how France was likely right on the US long ago, and how losing Europe's arms market would be devastating for Trump. You may find those videos interesting, so I'll leave them in the comments and description below. To the people of Denmark, Finland stands with you. We're used to wannabe dictators threatening us all the time, and the European community has your back.